Hi friends, welcome back to the StoneburnerBooks YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about making money as an artist. And this is something that I talk about with other artists at art fairs, but we always are talking about it in very vague terms. You know, at the end of the day, we'll talk about, oh, did you have a good day? Was it a worthwhile fair for you? But nobody ever says how much they make. And that's totally fine. And honestly, pricing and supply just differs between artists at those types of events. So somebody could make $1,000 and be upset because they usually make more, or somebody could make 700 and be so over the moon that they made that much. So I think it's totally fine to talk about money in generalizations, but one thing that I thought might be helpful to other artists is to see where my money came from in 2023. I have been tracking my money since I started my business, but really over the last 4 or 5 years, I've really fine-tuned what I'm tracking and how I'm keeping track of things so that I can pull these kinds of numbers out. So I'm excited to share this with you today and to talk about where my money is coming in, why I think I'm making more money here versus there, and kind of where I'm going this year. At the end of the video, I'm also giving a little bonus content of talking about why I have 2 different websites, a regular website and an Etsy site, and I'm going to break down the fees that I paid on both of those venues this year. So I hope you'll stick around for that. Before we dive into any numbers, I want to just say this disclaimer. This is just based on my experience. I'm giving this information so that other artists can kind of start to think about how they might want to expand their revenue streams, and just see what's working for me, what's not working for me, and be able to compare it to their own experience. You know, I haven't seen something like this for other artists, so I hope that it'll be helpful, just not as a competitive thing, just as a, oh, well, this person's doing well over here, maybe I should try that, or this didn't work out well for them and it's not working out well for me, so I'm glad I'm not alone in this experience. So that is all to say, you know, I'm happy to share this information, but please just know it's just based on my experience only. To get started, let's look at the breakdown of where my revenue came from in 2023. You'll see the biggest category is Square website at 27%. Now let me clarify, this is just the storefront aspect of my website. I'll get into more details about this in just a minute. The next category was markets and events at 23%. My Etsy shop came in right under that at 22%. Square invoices and custom work was 15% of my revenue. Instagram monetization came in at 9% of revenue, and wholesale finishes out at 4% of my revenue. Now that we have an idea of kind of where my money was coming from, I'm going to go through and explain each different category. In 2023, 27% of my revenue came in through my website storefront. So I'm calling it Square website in my categories, but really that just means the storefront part on my website. The thing I like about Square is that it allows me to collect revenue in several different ways, and you'll see as we go through the video some of the other ways that I'm able to collect revenue. But the 27% of revenue that came in is just strictly people going to StoneburnerBooks.com and purchasing something through the shop there. If you're interested or wondering why I have a standalone website and also an Etsy shop, please stick around till the end of the video and I discuss that more in depth. Okay, the next highest category of where revenue came from is markets and events. Now, I only do a handful of these each year. I have a couple that I do around the holiday season at the end of the year, and those are by far the biggest. I will sometimes sprinkle some throughout the spring or summer, but typically I do 2 events in December, 1 in November, and maybe 1 or 2 more kind of in June or October. Other things come up. You know, I did a couple pop-ups with my local library shop. So I'm always open to small things like that, but I really just enjoy these events for seeing people face to face and getting feedback on what I've made. If people are looking for other things, it's always good to know you get that feedback right away. And so I will always do these events, but I don't think I'm really trying to grow in this area. You know, a handful throughout the year is perfectly fine for me. Coming in right behind markets and events is Etsy. And I have been on Etsy since 2010, and much has changed in the last 14 years. So I have changed with it, and at the beginning, I only had an Etsy shop. Over the past few years, I have created my own website, and I'm really starting to transition to having the majority of my work on my own website. So Etsy is still there. I love having an Etsy shop. Some people have been customers for a very long time. They know that that's where they can find me. Also, it just gets my work out to a broader audience, people who go to Etsy to find gifts or journals, and then they come across mine through search. I think it's great to have it on there, but it's always going to be a smaller part of my revenue, unless something goes viral, and I've had that happen where it just kind of like shoots Etsy stuff up through the roof. But that's also a great thing to have. So I like kind of having this diversity of websites. But I'm not surprised that it's 22%. Now, I hope you'll stick around till the end of the video, and I'll talk a little bit more about the numbers of Etsy versus my standalone website. The next category is Square invoices and custom work. Now, this is not a paid ad or anything like that for Square, but I do want to just take a second and talk about Square invoices, because this has been a huge game changer for my business. As part of having this website, there is an invoicing option. So it means that when I have custom orders that come in through email or through direct messaging, and I want to bill those clients, I can send them a professional invoice that is all located within my website. So that means that they get an electronic invoice, they can pay it online with a credit card, and all of that money goes right into my banking system that I already have set up for my website. It has made my life so much easier. You can set up a payment schedule if you need to. Just recently, they made it so that you can now create shipping labels based on an invoice. So they're really making these tools that are so wonderful for artists and business owners who do a lot of custom work. So it makes my life a lot easier, and it's all kept track of, instead of having, you know, some stuff in email over here and some in direct messaging, and then I said, hey, send me PayPal over here. You know, that was the olden days of like, okay, we'll go back and forth, and then you send me this much for PayPal, and I have no record of like why I'm doing it. You know, I can charge line items of different journals, and then line items for shipping and stuff like that. So that's just all to say that I really love having this aspect of invoices, and I love the custom work that I do. You can see it's 15% of my business. So I try not to take a ton of projects on at one time, but I do love to have those custom projects. All right, the next to last category is Instagram monetization. This is a great category. I love this because basically I was getting paid to do something that I was already doing. And the reason that this was such a big percentage in 2023 is because of Reels bonuses. If you aren't on Instagram, or if you didn't have access to this, it was simply Instagram's way of rewarding creators who made content on Reels. And I was able to have that bonus from kind of mid 2022 until about mid 2023 when they discontinued the program. So I started the year of 2023 with Reels bonuses, and it was great because I'm making this content anyway, and then based on how many views it gets, I was paid a percentage. Now that bonus has gone away, and I am still making money on Instagram through my subscriptions. So subscriptions are, people pay a small monthly fee minus $2.99. And then I provide, you know, exclusive content. Sometimes it's tutorials, mostly it's behind the scenes kind of information of like what's going on in the studio or first looks at what I'm making. So I am still making money on Instagram, but I have a feeling that for 2024, unless they bring Reels bonuses back, I think this category might shrink just a little bit. The final category, coming in at a whopping 4%, is wholesale. Now, that is by design. I have done wholesale deals probably for the last decade off and on, and I've learned a lot. And the bottom line for me is that usually a wholesale deal does not work well for my products. I try to keep my prices low, and that also means that there's not a whole lot of margin to be able to wholesale, because with wholesale, you're basically selling it to the store for 50% of what you want to charge for it. And I don't build in that much overhead for my products. So one thing that I've learned is that if I'm going to do a wholesale or a consignment, I kind of group these two things together. If I'm going to do one of those deals, I need to make sure that it's on a product that there is enough profit margin there, that the store can take a certain amount and I can still cover the cost of my materials and my time. So if you're thinking about doing wholesale, that's my biggest thing that I would offer as advice, is just think about and make sure that you are paying yourself, because it's hard when you see a store, they get just as much as you do, because it's usually a 50-50 split. And I still remember one of my first deals, I was like, oh, they're getting this amount and I'm getting this, but like, really, after I pay for my materials, I'm only getting like $2. And so that wasn't great, but it was a good learning lesson. And it's no fault of the stores. I put the terms out. So it's something that I learned over the years, that wholesale is just tough with my type of product. So I only take on selective ones. So I'm sure that this will probably always be my lowest category, but that's okay. I love having this as an option, and I love having consignment as an option. It's great just to get more of my work out into the world. Okay, now that we've talked through all of the different categories of where and how I'm making my revenue, I want to get down into the little bit more nitty-gritty of the numbers on my website versus Etsy. So let's take a look at a graph here. All right, so this is a very basic graph, but I think it's important to show the percentage of revenue that I brought in versus the percentage of fees that I was paying. So in 2023, Square brought in 74% of my revenue. Now, this includes anything that came through on my website storefront. It includes any invoices that I sent out through Square invoices, as well as any credit card processing I did at markets and events, because my Square reader, it all processes through the website as well. So that's why it's such a big category. It's 74% of my revenue. And then Etsy is 26% of the revenue, and that's just anything that came through my Etsy shop. If you look on the other side at the fees that I paid, you'll notice that even though my revenue for Square was 74%, the fees that I'm paying were only 61%. And for Etsy, even though my revenue was 26%, I was paying 39% of the fees towards Etsy. So you'll see that there's a bit of a difference in the fee schedule, and that's a big reason why I am moving more of my products onto my own standalone website. With all those numbers in mind, I just want to say I'm not meaning to put you off from having an Etsy site. I just want to explain kind of why I'm transitioning to putting the bulk of my items on my own standalone website versus having an Etsy site. Now, I've mentioned many times, my Etsy site's not going anywhere. I really love having it as a way for a large group of people to find and discover my items that I'm not having to direct from Instagram. I'm not having to go out and find those customers. They go right to Etsy. So really, I'm just giving you these numbers and having this discussion because I want you to be aware of why I did this. I've mentioned in other videos too that, you know, it's important to know kind of what is a good fit for you and what works well for your business. Etsy might be a perfect fit for your business, especially if you are doing digital products or something that doesn't require shipping, or something that is small and easy to ship at a very low cost. That's a great fit for Etsy. So I just want to give this information so that you have some insight as to why I do the things I do, and maybe it will be helpful in your business as well. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please subscribe, hit the like button, and definitely know I'm keeping track of all of this. So there'll be another video in 2024 kind of reviewing everything and where my revenue came in for this year. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.